Yes, please go ahead.
All right.
Share my screen.
So hold on. Do we have to introduce you, William, or do we? I think the introductions were. No, you go ahead.
Okay, so before I share my screen, so William Perez. I was a student of Leah and Sagaroli in the late 1990s, early 2000s. My first jobs working. I was heavily. I always loved making models, and that was a tool that I used to get my foot on the door at Ramsa. My first job, Jill Botaglu's husband, John, recommended me right after his class work at STV Incorporated, doing a summer internship, making models. And then after that, after 2 years of school, I also worked a little bit with Lingard Architects in Sagaroli, also making models. Then after that, I paused and joined the. I wasn't quite sure if architecture wanted what I wanted to do for a living, and I enlisted in the army. Went to Iraq shortly after. While I was there, I realized architecture is really what I wanted to study, but I also wanted to continue doing military service. So upon return of deployment, I went back to City Tech. And not like many of you, I was working full time and going to school at night. I was able to finish my undergrad degree. And with my background, I interviewed for Ramsa. Ramsa still has a model shop staff, and also young architects start at the model shop. Some partners, currently partners at the office at Ramsa, began working at the model shop. It's making models, and you will see as part of my presentation, it's an integral aspect and culture of Ramsa. So I worked in the model shop for a little over a year. And then that's used and still used sort of like a test for if Ramsa is for you, if you're good enough for Ramsa. I mean, like any other field, is very demanding. You have to be passionate about it. So you're surely going to realize it's either for you or it's not for you. It's not for everyone. It's architecture is not a 9-to-5 job. You have to really give it your all, and you will see the results. So after a year, I moved on to studios, and I'm here still working with Ramsa. So that was my quick intro. And you will see I'm showcasing 4 projects, 4 different projects, unique, 2 with different partners, and the last 2 I did with Dan Lowitz. So I'll share my screen now, and you see it to begin my presentation. Where are you? Oh, here, okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Coming.
It's loading.
Loading, okay, I see.
Yes.
How do
We see it.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this is the main page. Why it's not there? So these are the 4 projects. The first one I began working right after I moved out of the model shop was an institutional project for Cambridge, for Harvard Law School. It finished at around 2008. The second project is the George W. Bush Presidential Library. Finished at about 2012. It's a museum, a library, and the presidential suite. Third project is a high-rise residential project in Chicago, One Bennett Park. And the last project that's currently finishing is San Francisco, Crescent Uphill. It's a 44 condominium, they call boutique building apartment. So Harvard is in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's a LEED Gold, 266 gross square feet. Student center, clinical wing, housing classrooms, legal clinics. It has an 875-seat conference center and a campus center, and it's all above a 700-car on-the-ground parking garage. The building is a C-shaped building. wrapping around a landscape courtyard raised on the second level, which you will see in the other slides. It has an east-facing glass wall that opens to the courtyard, which brings light into the double-height main spaces galleries. The building connects south to the common Harkness Common, which is over here. You will see more of them. It's a Walter Gropius building built in 1951. Some of the details of the building is a limestone facade with large, deeply recessed windows, which you see in this image, with entrance porches that take cues from the law school's architectural legacy. Some of the surrounding buildings are Rich Nixon Austin Hall in 1883, and the monumental famous Landau Hall, which is the Harvard Library, built in 1928. And the Walter Gropius Harkness Common, and there are nearby dorms built on the international style. So here's the before and after campus. On the before on my left, the buildings stand at the corner of Massachusetts Avenue and Everett Street. There was in the past a parking lot that was built on the ground now. In front of it, to the east, this L shape are the Walter Gropius dormitories, and this curved building is the Walter Gropius that we kept. To the right side, you see the C-shaped building attached to the Walter Gropius building and the dormitories. So here's the ground floor plan and second floor plan. This is Massachusetts on the left, and this is Everett. So you access now the parking lot from Everett Street, go down the ramp to the parking lot, at the main entry level, and this is the Harkness Common now. You enter to the arches are here on the images. These are common spaces. You see the gallery and the classrooms, and you access the Harkness Common now. On the floor above, now the second level, you see the C shape on the second level park with more classrooms. These are the double-story galleries, and the Harkness Common is now a restaurant. As I mentioned, models are a culture of Ramsar. It's Bob driven. Bob himself, he was the dean of Yale Architectural School for a number of years, and this is also the way of him bringing what he learns and adapted from Yale into Ramsar. I'm showing on different scales model. The one on the upper left is it's a laser cut model. It was laser cut. This was back in early 2006 when it was a new machine. So we heavily used it. This is a 1/16" scale model. Some of the models are study models, but they also become professional. They also have paper model, foam core models, very rough, as you can see on the upper left, with hand sketch windows. To the lower left, some areas we transition then and begin making them more details. And on the upper right, you see one of our associate architects standing in front of a huge width at times when needed, and based on the project, we build large-scale models so our clients can to seduce the clients basically to so they could see themselves inside of the spaces. Is how we work. I'm showing images. Here's an aerial view of on the upper left of the law school, where you see the east glass and the attached to the Harkness. And in this image, actually, this is some of the old Walter Gropius dormitories. To the underneath is the main entry to the law school. To the right is a view. It looks like it's a fall of from the park looking north, and the lower right is I'm standing at the corner of Massachusetts and Everett looking at building. And these are details. Again, as I mentioned, deep recess windows with limestone details, the arches, for Romanesque architecture of the legacy of the buildings. The law school campus, see a very expensive curved glass. It has a modern feel in addition to the traditional architecture. So moving on, this is the George W. Bush Presidential Library. Again, roughly finished at about 2012. So the library houses a museum, the institute, and the narrow archive, basically for the President Bush. President Bush. The architecture is a brick Texas Cordova limestone building, which complements the historic American character of the Georgian architect of the SMU, Southern Methodist University. The building sits at SMU campus. Laura Bush herself was an alumni of SMU. The museum is approached from the SMU Boulevard. Let me go back. So here is you see how the building is broken into three phases, three parts. So you see the archive, the museum. In red is the institute, is where Bush has and Lower have the offices and dining, and they receive the VIP. By the way, if there are any questions, please feel free to ask, so we could have an interactive presentation instead of me just lecturing for like 30 minutes. So the museum is oriented north. So you access the museum from Southern Boulevard. And I lost my thought over here.
So William, I'm going to interrupt you. So in this project, I know you were talking about the first one in Massachusetts.
Mhm.
Were you involved in this project from beginning to end? I mean, what was your role in each project? I guess that's kind of where I'm.
Yes, good question. Thank you, Leah. As a young architect, I was coming out of the model shop. I began the project at the schematic design phase, the middle. So the building already had sort of its C-shaped type. So I joined the team as a model shop staff, where working with the architects and the partners to make presentation models through all the phases. And as the project finished, I went on to CD and CA. I also continued. It was the first time I began working on construction drawings for not CA but CD on this project, the law school. And as I continue on to the Bush Library, I also joined. Let me move back. The project during the schematic design phase, where after several studies, the building had its shape. And I also continue working, assisting now with a little more experience on the CA phase, CD phase, construction documents, and then I also help the partners as reviewing shop drawings during the CA phase.
Okay.
So here you see the library. This is the SMU campus.
I'm sorry, I missed some. Which campus is this located and where? Or what state?
Yes, sir. It's on Southern Methodist University in Texas.
Great.
So here's the main floor. This is where you access to the north, the building. To the right, there is a store, gift shop. To the right, there is a dining area. Everything in cyan is the museum. This is the feature building. You will see it's a lantern. It's a 50 by 50 by 65 foot lantern in cream limestone. That during the day, a lantern that brings daylight into the building, and it forms a soft glooming beacon at night. Across there is a park, and everything in red is the presidential suite. At the ground level, everything in green is part of the museum, and underneath there's a lecture hall, and everything in red is also part of at the south is part of the presidential suite. In purple are the National Archive, and mechanical space. So me as part of the team, these are large models that I built with other. This was a huge team, of course. It was a big project. It's 3 buildings into one. On the upper left, you see myself working on the model. You see Laura Bush. She was heavily engaged. She drove the project, not really the president. It was her. You see Bob on the lower right presenting to her. I see how engaged she is. It's like that feeling, that wow factor. Her coming to the office with her Secret Service staff and looking at her building. So this is a Ramsar cartridge of how Ramsar to this day still when doable and possible based on the project, what we try to do. So here's a section cut into I think it's north-south. I do not have a diagram showing, but this is actually the model that we built. It was so well built that we used it as a building section. So you cut into the Freedom Hall, crossing to across the presidential suite, and you get a feel of the Freedom Hall, the 50 by 50 by 67 tower, and you see the clear stories that brings light into the space. And underneath there is a 3D sketch with some details that explains the scale of you actually see the figures in the model scale of the building. These are views. On the upper left is what the public sees when they park on the parking lot. Is as you approach the museum. This is you see the Freedom Hall and the lantern. To the right is the entry to the VIP, the institute. I forgot to mention there is, as part of the museum, there's also a miniature of the Oval Office. It's on the lower left. And the Rose Garden is a Texas Rose Garden. It's a quarter scale of it. So as part of the museum, as the public goes in, they get to experience a feel of the White House. They actually, we also designed the interior spaces. They just cannot be part of the presentation. It will be too long. But you could see you could enter and see the desk of the Oval Office, and you could come outside and walk to the Rose Garden like if it was a White House. All right. Any questions on the presidential library?
Oh, well, William, I had a question about the library. So I'm not sure, but could you say something about how Ramza got the commission for this library? Was it a competition, or were you just selected out of a hat?
I think I'm not certain. I'm not 100% certain, but I think Ramza was selected by George W. Bush. I mean, Dan, please, if you have any information, you will correct me. But I don't think Ramza competed for this project. But I'll double check and
I know the answer to that.
Okay.
I know the answer to that.
Oh, after lunch.
They had a selection committee, and the selection committee basically put together a list of people that they were interested in, and then they just called individually and spoke to people. So there was no competition. They just basically came to a decision.
Very Washington-like.
Yeah.
Very presidential. Okay, yeah. William, thank you for that, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah. So on this project is One Bennett Park. This is where Dan Lewis and his staff recruited me to join his studio. So it was one of the first projects I worked with Dan. It's a slender precast clad tower with a symmetrical crown that steps towards the city as it favors views to Lake Michigan. It's in Chicago. It has 269 rentals apartment and 69 condominiums with 2 components that are entered from different areas. At the ground level, you will see each of the condos and the rentals have their own separate entrances. It's something that I guess developers now ask. By the way, the developer for this project was related Midwest, Midwest is the branch of the related company, which is the headquarters in New York. At the lantern top houses a mechanical equipment. Even though we have those luxury canopy loggias, those are actually mechanical space. The memorable skyline silhouette. So here's a site plan of One Bennett Park. It's at the corner of Lakeshore and Grand Ave. It faces the park, which was designed by Michael van Berkenver. He also designed the site of the Presidential Library. I forgot to mention earlier. So here's the ground floor. At this corner of Lakeshore and Grand Ave, you enter this. There's at the corner of that corner of Grand Ave in Michigan is the rental entry separately. And from the rental entry, you access the own elevator lobbies. On the other side from Grand Ave, there's a motor court, which is private for the condominiums. The second floor is all amenity spaces, and there's an open deck. Here you get a sense, it's a building section of the apartments and the condos and the mechanical space. Floors 5 to 36 are rentals. There are 8 per shape of the building. Roughly for 42 to 48. There are also penthouses that I'm not showing in here. That's roughly about 4 condos per floor. So in these images, I'm showing images that I did not show on the other first project, because they're a lot older, but you get a sense of how we start working with Bob. You see Dan presenting to Bob, and we have several, these are clay towers. The clay that kids used to build. Bob it's something that Ramsar has been using for as long as I work for Ramsar. It's easy to cut, manipulate. Bob himself gets a knife, and he's it cuts and makes us take pictures, and we develop ideas from having a 30-minute session with him, Dan, and other co-workers working with clay. You see Dan on the image below, also sketching on giving us direction. On the upper right, you see images of 3D SketchUp. You see elevation. You see Chris Lee, who was the project manager, is in this image. He's a great friend and mentor of mine. And on the lower right, you get a sense of also paper model, larger scales, ½ inch, and the tower, also foam. You see also, you get a sense of how messy the spaces can get. It looks like an architectural studio feel. It's not always clean.
We try.
We try. Yeah, every now and then we get a call from HR, and please clean up the spaces. So on One Bennett Park, I also joined the project during middle of schematic. It more since had the shape it had, which was detailed a little further. With the experience that I had working at the law school and the library, I was able to further assist Dan and Chris on this project during CD, and I also assisted. I was the assistant project manager during the CA. So we made site visits. This is a phase that I really enjoy, where you see the product of all your hard work coming to life. So you see Dan see mock-up at the lower left of the windows. At the upper left, there is a large-scale mock-up of the metal panels, the stone, and the precast concrete. At the lower right, you get a sense of, even at the site, when we want to express an idea, we do not hesitate. We right away just try to sketch, so everyone has a visual of any changes that we might, also a solution to a problem that we may have. And of course, on the upper right, when you actually see the pieces coming together, you're like, wow, this is coming alive. As I mentioned earlier, before we began, sketches are also a part of Ramsar's. These are sometimes Dan or his the other co-workers like to have an idea and quickly sketch details. So and then at the end of the project, you realize, you look back at 2 or 3 years at those sketches and see how close related they are, they feel to the actual building. So you have a sketch of them from the tower and the actual tower underneath. It's amazing how close they are. And to the right is also a sketch that we did early on during schematic design. And this sketch, again, it looks so close to the actual building. It was actually used as a booklet as advertisement for the project when it first opened. So here you get a sense of I'm trying to express the level of detail that we had, even though we're not the architect of record. We have an associate architect, and in buildings like this is in Chicago, we work very close with them, so they respect our design intent, our direction, and we provide feedback, and we go to the site and give them direction and comments of solution to problems, and you get a sense of detail of the grills, the stone, the recessed, even the coursing. Even though this is a concrete building, we pay close attention to the coursing of the facade. So at times, even though the panels come in, they cannot disappear within the lines of the coursing. So it's because the coursing is worked to a level that work. It's not just like a mesh that's just placed on the building.
So I have a question. Can you go back one slide? I want to actually point, not on the one with the sketch. Maybe this is more of a, academia or knowing Stern's work, but I'm going to annotate. And there is this certain elements that are very unique on a building. Do they reflect what goes on behind the facade, or are they just decorative? I think I know the answer, but I'm kind of like asking, when there's decision makings, when I put elements on a facade, I'm just looking at this over here. It's a different pattern and it gets repeated. Does it reflect what happens behind that?
At times, yes. Many times, forms follows function. So yes, Bob Stern doesn't do a glass building. This is more, if you research Ramsar, it's more of a traditional classicist building. But yes, if there is like at the lower level, that's an amenity space. If you around there, so there could be the beginning of what there's a space below, but then that patterns could carry up to other spaces.
And the other, I guess it should also be mentioned that the floor plans change as you go up through the building, and so the changes in the elevation to a large degree are reflecting changes that are happening inside. But of course, there are certain elements like the one that you circled with the tall, that has that tall expression. Yeah, that actually, honestly is more of a decorative element, and there are big rooms behind there, but again, we made an explicit decision to make something that was glassier and then had metal piers there just because it was aesthetically nicer. So there are large living rooms behind that element, but there are other places in the building where there maybe are similar rooms that aren't quite so glassy. So, and I think on a residential building, we think that kind of play is essential to get it to feel like it's not monotonous and just completely repetitive.
Now, how many stories is it?
It's a 6 to 7 story.
6 to 7. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I should go back to the first.
Yeah.
It's 836 feet tall to the top of the bulkhead, and it's so 6 to 7 stories high.
Oh. Okay.
I think it was the highest residential tower in Chicago right then. It was first built.
Yep. Well, it still is. Yep.
Well, it's okay. So moving on to how actually we went over how we work, sketches, detail images. These are the views of the two separate entrances. The view on the lower right is the view of the condominium from the model court. You see how some of the grill details are carried over from other areas, from the Juliet balconies over above the terraces that are carried throughout the building. To the left is the rental entry. These are custom also lanterns designed by Ramsa. And upper left, there is the
William's being very modest. He designed all of those metalwork details and also a leading role in all of the detailing and working out the specifics of the assemblies and coordinating with the architect of record and the contractors, because William is quite skilled at detailing and construction means and methods. So he's the person that we rely on in that regard.
So you should take credit for it, William.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Thanks. It is a round representation. Well, we often look at many, we do our president work, and we look at different other, not just Ramsar buildings, but historical ironwork. And at times it's not like a one option. We show Dan and Bob also different options of grill work, and this one in particular for One Banyan Park, it was just a quick story and an idea that I had in mind, but I didn't want to sketch first because I had to sketch for the partners one first, and then at the end I said I like this one. Let me try to make time and do it, and I quickly sketched it. And the next morning, this is what Dan liked and Bob approved, so it's in the building now.
Yep.
So last project. Any further questions on One Bennett before I move on to the last one?
Can I just make a professor comment here? For all the students that are watching, I know in all of my classes, I'm a big advocate of hand sketching, detailing, and I think you can see here is those sort of the level of sketching that William is showing is so critical to the process, and also at the exact moment that needs to change something or create a new design that goes to the partner for review. Those are when your sketching skills can be really relevant and really sort of get your attention or get your design idea forward, or basically help to keep the construction schedule moving, because you have to adjust on the fly. So I think these are great examples for our teaching methods to help help show that analog drawing is still valid in today's society. Thank you very much. This is beautiful, William. Thank you so much for sharing all this.
Yes, something I learned also then sometimes he reminds me, it may take you a day to do a pretty elevation, and it could take you 20 minutes to do a quick hand sketching project, the same idea. So it's to get your idea across.
Yep.
So One Banyan Park, I'm sorry, 875 California, Crescent Uphill. So this is it's actually the pandemic actually stopped the construction. It's about to finish anytime now. I also joined this team during middle schematic design. I during those design phases with the background that I have building models, I was now directing younger staff of assisting making the models for meetings with the partners and the clients. And towards the later on of the phase, the current project manager at the time left Ramsar, happened to be also California, San Francisco. So I was given the opportunity to manage the project. It was the first project I managed myself for Ramsar. So it's a 65 high building. 10 stories. The average height is 10 feet high. Is 44 condominiums. All condos, no rentals. The client is Grosvenor America. Grosvenor is America because it's a London-based developer. And our associate architect was BDE Architecture. So San Francisco. San Francisco is a historic location. It's standing at the top of Knapp Hill, at the intersection of Powell and California, the building. It's a storybook location where the two historic cable cars meet. So I'm showing the in red lines the cable cars that still work, and at that intersection, which is over here, actually, yeah, right there. And in orange is our building. This is going up the hill. You'll see images. So the building stands at the top of that hill, looking at the intersection of those two cable cars. So the facade representing a contemporary interpretation of San Francisco's traditional tall bay windows that curve that capture the views up and down those hills. In this building, you will also see some of the historic traditional rustication bays along with the bay windows that we interpreted in a more contemporary manner. And in this building, as you walk and this main floor plan, there is between the entry and what the developers calling now the secret garden, it's a 25-story feet difference. So you enter, you go down the stairs, and for the stairs, and you you enter at the glamorous that I will show on the images on secret garden. So I'm showing a third and seventh level. And the third floor, you get a sense of the condominiums, fairly simple condominiums. And at the last level, we have 4 penthouses, which have their own private terrace at the top of the roof of the building. So again, I'm showing sketches of early on phases of the project where a sketch of an idea was created. And underneath the sketch is the more design development evolution of the original sketch. To the right side, actually, I left on the DL sketch, and then it shows the date 2015 when it was created. Also, the beginnings of the secret garden, and at the end is a design development evolution of the secret garden, which you'll also see. Will show on the images. So again, showing how we work in the office, you see Bob Stern on the upper right, taking a look at a facade detail, potential facade detail, full scale. You see underneath us looking at different sketches of elevations presenting to Dan. The lower right, as you by now get a sense of Dan, is his humble person. He likes to make us laugh, so it's not always serious work. So we have like a moment of joy at the lower right image. And I'm showing a picture of Bob looking at books, because I did not emphasize this on this presentation, but we do a heavy amount of research before we begin the project. Because as you can see now, every project is unique. Every project is meant to be contextual. It wants to be. It's not like making a statement. This is about building. The building runs up designs so it belongs within the neighborhood. So every building is unique in its own way. Has unique challenges. I'm showing more images of different scales of the model, different scales of different models that we built. Again, upper left is more, I think it's 1/32 inch. This is just simple foam core massing model. Lower left is more larger scale. Again, they look presentable now, but they begin as a rough model that we use. We break, put apart, use as a tool. And the upper right is a DD level model, again showing the secret garden. And the upper right is studying the base and the masonry entries to some of the units. So here now we are at this CFAs where we are reviewing some of the markups. The upper right, you now get a sense of the contemporary. This is a granite stone imported from China. The GC suggested. So you see the level of rustication, how they meet, how you get a sense of the window hair, window sill, and how they meet with such a complex geometry facade for the building. I'm at the bottom with the associate architect and the GC going over some details, chart drawings of the project. I'm showing how the level of detail that even Ramsa as design architect, these I'm showing railings that were produced for our project. In our lower left, you see even Bob at his age, he still goes to San Francisco and he goes on site visits. You see Bob there, and then behind with the client, Steve Boster and Winnie from Grosvenor. And I'm quickly going to flip to some images so you get a sense of this project San Francisco. So I'm looking north of the project. This is you get now you see actually the cable car, get a feel of it and how deep this hill is. You get a sense of the rustication, and the building, the majority of the building is stucco with Navona travertines, window surrounds, and parapets. I'm showing images looking from the street to the into the front courtyard. You get a sense of the canopy, how the rusticated base meet the base of the granite window, and even in the courtyard, the walls and even the seating area carries the same level of detail as the rest of the facade. Here I'm showing the view looking up at the bay window. You get a better feel of the stone level of work. The Tuscan column looking from the 6th level, looking at the street, and get a sense of the level of detail at the railings. You get a sense of the rear garden and how lower gears were created to take advantage of the sun, series of terraces. And here's a close view again. If you remember the sketches, then the development of the sketches, and now you get a feel of the actual terrace. Again, even in the rear garden, the same level of work of material was brought in. It's just that in the simplified version, it's not rusticated, but it's the same granite level, same granite stone material. These are terraces, view of terraces. You get a feel of the terrace. You see the level of detail of the scallop at the roof. And here is, even I mentioned earlier, the penthouses have their own, each of the 4 of them have their own terrace, but we have an amenity terrace where everyone also take advantage of, and with a public roof terrace. And here is a night view of 875 California, Crescent Uphill as it stands right now.
And I'm going to add, again, William's being very modest, but again, he took over as project manager for this project, and so he led our effort for the entire second half of the project, which included directing the final development of all of the detailing and working out how all of those details were going to be put together, and coordinating with the architect of record and all of the consultants and the contractor, reviewing the work of the contractor and discussing with the contractor how we could achieve all of the details that we were trying to achieve. And William is very demanding, and he really held their feet to the fire and made sure that they came up with a really beautiful solution and built things the way that we wanted them to be. And so he did an amazing job. And I think everybody, the client and our team, people in the neighborhood rave about the building. Everybody's so excited about it, and to have that building, a building I think that has made a real contribution to a very historic part of San Francisco.
Thanks, Dan. So I guess I'm gonna open the floor to we have a couple of minutes left for any questions about Ramsa, myself, projects.
William, I just had a question about the facade. You said it was cementitious stucco. Was it stucco on concrete block, or was it foam? Is my question.
That particular building, yes, is I can't think of the name right now, but it is a foam with a layer of stucco. Yes, it's
Wow,
called Drive It.
interesting.
Yes, it's Drive It material.
Got it. Interesting. And then the other question, I wonder if you could say a couple words about the associate architect, how that factors into, the project with
Um,
you, with Ramza and the associate, the local architect.
Um, I learned you have to develop many projects. We work once you build one project with one associate architect. I see the pattern of each one recommending the other because there's already a relationship with them. I think on this two project, one Bennett Park in S25 California, it was the first time working with those two GRC Chicago and BDE in San Francisco. It takes a bit of time for them to understand our way of work, Ramsa, and our design intent and our demand. In many cases, for example, I had a hard time asking them when they wanted to approve any material. Like, for example, we did a series of study for the stone and the travertine, and even the color for the stucco and the color for the windows and the railings. And we would not approve anything by looking at colors on the screens. So I will always ask, you need to send those samples. And they could not understand why they need to spend money sending the sample. Like, we need, and what they realized, towards the end of the project, the reason for that, the project it was such a good project, and the reason we will look at the samples, and if we were not happy with what we received, sometimes I will make the effort to even contact the supplier and ask for other colors or other samples to suggest to the client associate architect. And there they begin to understand, oh, okay, this is what Ramsa is asking for, such and such. And it's the same with sketches. Sometimes we will need to do more than what we need to. So whether it's a hand sketch or even give them a CAD or a 3D drawing so they could take it and put it into their CD so they could understand the level of information of what we want or what we need. Just because we are the design architect and what we do is design doesn't mean we're not interested on the level of information on the building, because at the end of the day, it is a Ramsa building. So we want to make sure the product is to the standard of Bob and Ramsa.
But I wonder if one of our students wants to chime in here. My question really is about what's the necessity for an associate architect? Anyone, the local associate architect. What does the associate architect do for a firm like Ramsa? Why is there an associate architect needed?
That's a question for the students, right?
Students, yeah, because
I wanna say something along the lines of the associate architect is more familiar with that specific area in working.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
local.
they are to follow up with the local codes and regulations, and sometimes they even be licensed in that area, because you have to be licensed in every different state. So if no one in Ramsa has a California license, which is even harder to get, right, than any other state, then I guess they need an associate.
Right.
There's an oral exam for the California license.
Right. Good.
May I ask, William, are you pursuing licensure at this point? As you know, our BARC program has taken off, and so I'm curious for our graduates before the BARC is issued. Are you pursuing licensure at this time, or how are you?
Yeah, I'm not licensed yet. I began the process, and then life got in the way. But yes, it is a goal. I like to become licensed architect. I mean that's so much in my life, with family and my military career. But yes, it's a personal goal.
And I also think, just again for the students' experience, since we have somebody who graduated and is in the field, how is the transition from your education, from going to school to working full time and working for a major firm? Do you think you were well prepared for it from City Tech's sort of preparation for your career, or any shocks or shock value you want to tell us about?
Well, I think the school environment, and there's always been the question, school environment versus reality. I think Ramsa was a good fit for me personally and my education at City Tech. Coming again, I came in as a model maker, and I that was my internship at the model shop. And for a year, I worked with different partners, different teams, working long hours, making deadlines for presentations for models, different kind of models, and with that comes the understanding of architecture and details. At the time at City Tech, where we just AutoCAD only, and the level of the design level and the craftsmanship taught to me at City Tech. So from that perspective, coming in, it heavily prepared me. The rest is up to the individual, whether how they want to pursue their career and in what direction they like to go.
So to follow on that, what are you working on now? Is there any specific project you're actually managing now, or are you allowed to share?
Can I give details? But no. At the moment, we're not. I'm not managing a project. I'm assisting, but it's a project in Germany. In Berlin.
Where in Germany?
Berlin.
Nice. Very nice.
Very cool project.
Yes. With a new client as well.
So, I mean, I think the students, do you guys have any questions for William? I mean, he was one of you at some point.
I kind of want to go back to your models. They're beautiful. I hope to get there one day. But time-wise, how long does that take for?
Okay. They're not they look like presentation models from the images, but they are the state that I showed them is an evolution of how we started. I mean, I did show some rough models, but they're an evolution of they're used as a tool to the design phases, and towards the end of a project they look so good. They may need some touch up, that they are used as marketing as well for One Bennett Park and both, actually all three of them, the Harbor Law, all four projects that I showcase, the models were used as marketing. They're used as a form of study, and towards the end, they become a marketing tool. So it's not like I'm going to build a model to present. It's the evolving tool.
Okay. And then after the project is complete, what then happens to those models?
Some of them are showcased at Ramsa. If you or when you tour, which you will at some point next year, hopefully. See some of them. It's all those get archived. They don't. Some get destroyed. They're not worth keeping. Some get archived at the Ramsa warehouse.
Okay. Thank you.
So William, I have a question. Another question is, so when you were at City Tech, you said in the late 90s and then you came back?
Yeah, City Tech, I think the associate's degree was new.
Late 90. Well, that we've had that, always had that. But so you had the associates and then you went to military and then you came back for your bachelor, BTech?
Yes, for the BTech, that's correct.
I see. So I guess my question is, at the time, late 90s, you had Leah. Leah was there in the late 90s?
Yes.
I wasn't even born in the late 90s.
Yeah, I thought she was at least in high school then. But anyway, I didn't know that. Wow. Okay. So the model shop, at that point in time, we had like a woodworking model shop. I was an adjunct then, now and then. That's gone. So I'm wondering, it seems that was very helpful, very fundamental for your skills, having that model shop, right? The woodworking shop.
Yes, Ramsa has a big, it did in the last office and in the new office that we moved, 3 or 4 years ago. It's actually larger model shop space. So we have war room spaces for teams. We have a model shop with specifically model staff, in addition with architects working with the model staff. So it's an integral part of Ramsa.
Right, and I would say I'm still teaching the internship classes. I guess I'm in my 13th year now, and we visit these great architects. And I'm trying to visit Ramsa for the last couple of years. Haven't made it in there yet, but the whole art of model making is still, I mean, you know, Bob is like considered old school, you know, hand models, et cetera. But the young up and coming, I shouldn't say young up and coming, but like big architects, we went to see them. They're all about models, model making. They're all over on shelves along the walls. Snoetta, we went to see, all model making. Shop architects, all model making. So that art, that craft is still very much part of how we create. It's really empowering, I think, for us. I mean, the digital world is important, but the physical, tactile, you know, workability of a physical model is still very, very important. It's good to see that that's what brought you to Ramsey. And you've been how long there now?
This is 15 years now, I think.
15 years. Whoa.
It kind of pretty much, I guess after my summer intern with Sargaroli and Lindgren Architects, I went to Ramsey.
Good for you.
It's been a long time. A long time.
So if there are no more questions, I'd like to end by mentioning that Ramsey is currently working on a mentorship program with City Tech beginning next year. Stay tuned for more information.
And I would like to add to that, I'm looking forward to that mentorship program because it involves lectures and it involves talks, walking tours. And so I think it's a great opportunity, and God, I would love to join the walking tours. But, and I appreciate, you know, Galen, just you guys are, thank you so much. And so, you know,
About it.
yeah.
I think Galen and you guys have put together a really great strategy for it, and we're everybody here is very, very excited about it. And of course, we also do look forward to having people come and visit and see the office and our operations here. And the model shop, as Ken said, you know, I mean, we certainly believe that model making and physical models are such an important part of art, and hand drawing as well, such an important part of architecture. To see something in 3 dimensions, you know, the computer models are helpful, but it's no substitute. And of course, we are, for the most part, still working remotely, but hopefully sometime soon we'll be back. I'm here in the office today, but there are only a few of us here, and hopefully we'll be back and we can have people come and visit. It would be great to have you guys come and see our place here and how we work in person.
I will take you up on that, Dan. Thank you.
As long as you
No
wear
way.
your mask.
Yep, right.
And wash your hands. Don't forget to wash your hands.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Are you guys still on 34th Street?
No, we're on Park Avenue and 30, between 32nd and 33rd now.
Ah, okay.
Number 1 Park Avenue. We lost our lease in the 34th Street space, and actually we found really nice space. We reduced the size of the office a little bit, so everything's a little tighter, but we were divided among 5 floors before. Now we're on 2 contiguous floors. We put in a connecting stair, and it feels much more like people are all, you know, really together and in one space. So it's really, we're very happy to be here.
And how many people are you now, or pre-pandemic maybe?
Pre-pandemic, we were just under 300, and we've dropped a bit as a result of the pandemic. We're hoping to bring some people back that we had to make a reduction, but we're hoping to bring people back as well.
Big. That's big. That's a small city. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
so much. And so nice to see you, William.
you.
We'll see you again. And I keep following you on Facebook, so
Hopefully we'll meet in person soon.
I hope so. All right, and stay, please stay safe.
Likewise. Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You guys. Bye, everybody.